rules and regulations are endeavoring in vain? The answer is given by Srimad Bhagavatam 10:2-32. Ye anye aravindaksha vimukta manina. Lord Brahma and other demigods prayed to the Lord when Krishna was in the womb of Devaki. My dear lotus-eyed Lord, there are persons who are puffed up with the thought that they have become liberated or one with God or have become God. But in spite of thinking in such a puffed up way, their intelligence is not laudable. They are less intelligent. It is stated that their intelligence, whether high or low, is not even purified. In purified intelligence, a living entity cannot think otherwise than to surrender. Bhagavad Gita therefore confirms that purified intelligence arises in the person of a very wise man. Bahunam janmanam ante jnanavan mam prapadyate. After many births, one who is actually advanced in intelligence surrenders unto the Supreme Lord. Without the surrendering process, one cannot achieve liberation. The Bhagavatam says, those who are simply puffed up thinking themselves liberated by some non-devotional process are not polished or clear in intelligence, for they have not yet surrendered unto you. In spite of executing all kinds of austerities and penances, or even arriving at the brink of spiritual realization, in Brahman realization, they think that they are in the effulgence of Brahman, but actually, because they have no transcendental activities, they fall down to material activities. One should not be satisfied simply with knowing that one is Brahman. He must engage himself in the service of the Supreme Brahman. That is bhakti. The engagement of Brahman should be the service of Parabrahman. It is said that unless one becomes Bhagavan, one cannot serve Brahman. It is said that unless one becomes Brahman, one cannot serve Brahman. The Supreme Brahman is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the living entity is also Brahman. Without realization that he is Brahman, spirit, soul, or eternal servitor of the Lord, if one simply thinks that he is Brahman, his realization is only theoretical. He has to realize and at the same time engage himself in the devotional service of the Lord. Then he can exist in the Brahman status. Otherwise, he falls down. The Bhagavatam says that because non-devotees neglect the transcendental loving service of the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead, their intelligence is not sufficient. And therefore, these persons fall down. The living entity must have some activity. If he does not engage in the activity of the transcendental service, he must fall down to material activity. As soon as one falls down to material activity, there is no rescue from the cycle of birth and death. It is stated here by Lord Kapila. Without my mercy, anyatra mad bhagavata. The Lord is stated here to be Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, indicating that he is full of all opulences and therefore perfectly competent to deliver one from the cycle of birth and death. He is also called Pradhana because he is the Supreme. He is equal to everyone, but to one who surrenders to him, he is specially favorable. It is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita that the Lord is equal to everyone. No one is his enemy and no one is his friend. But that to one who surrenders unto him, he is specially inclined. By the grace of the Lord, simply by surrendering unto him, one can get out of this cycle of birth and death. Otherwise, one may go in many lives, go on in many lives, and may many times attempt other processes for liberation. To the Mangalacharan. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitnamine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gaurvani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatu Desha Tarine Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Jutapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamsya He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Shri Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpataru Vesya Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. First of all, my humble obeisances to all the assembled Vaishnavas. I seek your blessing so that I can say something which adds some value to this hour. My also humble obeisances to His Grace Madhupati Prabhu for engaging me in this seva so that I can do some Shastra reading. We are reading about Sankhya philosophy being described by Lord Kapil to his mother, Mother Devahuti. Mother Devahuti earlier in this chapter asked question that I am a woman and I am of less intelligence. How can I follow? What process can I follow? Can you please explain it to me in simple terms so that I can get out of this cycle of birth, death, disease, and old age? So she's saying that, it's very difficult for me to understand the absolute truth because I'm not very intelligent. So, first of all, we have to understand that Mother Devahuti is very intelligent. But when such devotees ask these questions, they are asking for the betterment of the larger society. They are asking for those who cannot take up this process, those who may have this question but do not have the access. So that's why these questions are asked. And then Lord Kapila, of course, becomes very compassionate towards her. Once she's asking this wonderful question, being devotee. Second, she's his mother. And then he goes on and then in the process, he is actually explaining this Bhakti Yoga. Okay. And in the Bhakti Yoga process, Lord Kapila has so far explained that how one can do the bhakti. And bhakti is very simple, that what he has explained, that serving the Supreme Lord, okay? Being positive towards that, thinking about Supreme Lord. Now, in this particular verse, he is saying that the terrible fear of birth and death can never be forsaken by anyone who resorts to any shelter other than myself. Because I am the Supreme Personality of Godhead, original source of all creation, and also the Super Soul. So, I'm sorry, it's school time, so there is some background noise. Kids are getting ready for school. But we have to. Yeah. So, what Krishna is, what Lord Kapila is saying here, that nobody other than me can deliver one from the cycle of birth, death, old age, and disease. Srila Prabhupada actually translates this verse very wonderfully. If you see in the verse, there is no mention of birth and death. What the word which has come is bhayam tibram, the terrible fear. Now, what is terrible fear than the birth, death, old age, and disease? Birth is described as a very painful process. It's a process where in the womb, when kid is there, embryo is there, it is said that sometimes mother hears in her womb the kick, and she becomes joyful, experiencing that I have my child is my womb, child in my womb. But that kick is coming because it's very painful in there for the embryo. And because of that pain, sometimes the kid actually kicks, but becomes unconscious after that. So while the embryo is unconscious, it's not kicking, but when it becomes conscious, it kicks, and that's what mother experiences. Please give me one second. So that is the even in our last Sunday class, Amritanand Prabhu mentioned this point, that when mother is giving the pain, giving the birth, that process is called labor pain. It's not, even though the soul is coming to this world, this birth, it's a joyful moment, but this process is called labor pain. Mother is in a lot of difficulty. Yeah. Now with the modern science, there is this C-section where it's operated, mother is operated on. But even that process is also very painful. There is, it's a major surgery. So it's painful for the born, and it's also painful for the one who is giving birth. After that, there is old age, which is coming. Old age is nothing but a very slow, over a long period. It's a slow process of dying. In Western culture, we call it, when somebody is asking someone's age, call it, how old are you? Means, how old are you, in the sense that ultimately that's what it is, that you're becoming old. How much old you have become. And that's a reminder of that. Ultimately, there will be a time when this process of oldness will stop and there will be death. So it's again very painful. And then in between we encounter diseases, multiple, and any kind of, if you ask what a sick person wants, the only thing he'll ask for is a good health. It's so much painful. Okay. So we can understand that people take all sorts of measures, the very painful processes they go through to get cured from this. But it is only a temporary respite, because ultimately this body is decaying and is going towards the death. Okay? No matter what we do. It's whatever we do is the process to just stretch it a little more. Okay? And then ultimately death. And death is so painful. Thousands of scorpions are, injecting their venom, biting, at the same time. And then the experience that comes from that, that's the kind of pain we have in the process of death. So there is nothing else which, one can remember. No artificial. Sometimes we have this process of saying Krishna, Krishna, when we find something which is terrible or something which is not. And that's actually we getting into the practice, because the ultimate unfortunate moment will come when we'll die. And if we have not practiced enough, if we have not taken Krishna's name enough, we will fail in that exam. So that's why this Bhayam Tibram is being translated by Srila Prabhupada as the terrible fear of birth and death. And because he is the Atmana, he is the super soul of the Sarvabhutana, of all the living entities. That's why only he can deliver. Then Srila Prabhupada, after this, he describes that one may take to the system of understanding the absolute truth by one's own imperfect sensory speculation, or one may try to realize the self by the mystic yoga process. Now, there is a lot of concoction, mental concoction, which one can take up. Now, I have a friend, and every time we'll meet, he's a good friend, and every time we meet, he'll say, well, as long as you are a good person, it doesn't matter what you're doing. Now, what does a good person's definition is? A good person's definition is that, now we don't indulge too much into that debate. We do not discuss this much. But I think in my mind that a good person is a person who is not stealing anyone's property, is offering the due respect, and is performing the duties which are assigned to that person. For example, one may say that, well, you don't have to take care of your parents. You just have to be a good person, and that's it. But then, not taking care of your parents is shying away from your duties. And then no matter however good person you are, and by that definition, probably the person is trying to include that, okay, as long as I'm an law-abiding citizen, as long as I'm going and doing my work, as long as I'm not creating social disturbances, troubling others, then I'm a good person. But you're missing on a big part of your responsibility, that is to take care of your parents. So that's why no matter how good a person you may say or you may behave like, you're not a good person. So similarly, those who are now, Krishna has many times declared, and even in this verse, he is saying that uh, Pradhana Purusheshwarat, the Lord of both Prakriti and Purusha, means he is the one who is the owner of everything. And what does that mean? Is that whatever we have available in this world, including the air we breathe, the water we drink, the earth on which we walk, the food item we eat, this all is the property of the Supreme. And if we are not giving the due respect to the Supreme, if we are not taking the permission of the Supreme, if we are not offering it as a bhoga to Supreme and then taking the prasad, what we are doing? We are doing the uh, it is nothing but a theft. It is just stealing. So and 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 by this Supreme Lord being the master of all these things, if we do not take care of the Rishikesh by our senses, not serving the Supreme by our senses, our body, mind, and words, then we are again, same example of child and parent, that we are shying away from a major responsibility of ourselves. And then no matter how good we say that we are not good. So that is what is being discussed here by Srila Prabhupada. And this process now, now one may say that, Prabhupada actually asked questions in this, but what about those who are doing all these mystic yoga process? They're going through a lot of penances and they are going through a lot of austerity. Is that all in vain? And he answers, and we can understand it very simply, that let's say we have we are a student, we all are a student, and we have a mathematics exam. Now, if we all, the day before our mathematics exam, we are all very, with a lot of diligence, with a lot of intention, with a lot of sincerity, we are studying our history books. And we say that, oh, then is this effort going in vain? Yes, if you look at it from the perspective of mathematics exam. So similarly, our exam is different. Our exam is at the end of our life. Our death is an exam, and that exam is where we will be tested by our will be tested if we remember the Supreme. And depending on what our answers are, we will get the next destination. Either we can get the destination of the Supreme, where Srila Prabhupada is saying, Krishna says many times, Yad Gatva Nivartante Tad Dhama Paramam. From where you cannot come back. Otherwise, no matter what, even till the Satya Loka, or even merging to the Brahman, if we are going, our answers are there. There is always a chance of falling down. So yes, if our preparation is not right, then we are not doing the right thing. And then Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he actually explains in his purports to these verses leading up to this one, that there are only three forms of the Lord which are to be worshipped. First is Krishna. He is the Swayam Bhagavan. Second is the Lord Ram and other Purusha avatars. And then third one is the Paramatma. And he says that other avatars like Matsya, Kurma, they all fall under the category of Lord Ram and other avatars like that. So our now, if beyond that, whatever we are doing, we are actually worshipping the Lord only. But Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, avidhi purvakam. So even if you are preparing, but you are not preparing in the right manner, then you're not going to do very well on your exam. It's a very simple thing to understand. So now we are over time with this. So I would like to stop here by just quickly summarizing what we discussed, that Srila Prabhupada has wonderfully translated that Bhayam Tibram to the terrible fear of birth, death, old age and disease, birth and death. And the process to get liberation from that is by serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead through devotional service. And in that, other parts are already included, which one may strive to get by following the other processes of yoga or the processes of worshipping the divine. So that I'd like to stop here. We went over time. So if there are any questions, comments, corrections, we can take that up in Nityam Bhagavad Seva. Thank you so much. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Akhilesh Krishna. We'd like to wish everybody a safe and Krishna conscious day ahead, and we'd like to offer our prayers to the Supreme Lord by chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Nrsimha Jai Nrsimha Jai Jai Nrsimha Praladesha Jaya Padma Mukha Padma Bringam Ugra Veera Mahavishnum Jwalantam Sarvato Mukham Nrsimham Visharam Bhadram Vityam Vityam Namiham. Nrsimha Bhagwan ki jai, Prahlad Maharaj ki jai. Let's offer our humble obeisances to all the assembled Vaishnavas. Vancha kalpataru patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnava Vaishnavinda ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanande Hari
Hari. Thank you, Akhilesh Krishna.
Thank you, everybody. Hari Bol, Hare Krishna.